I used to see Firewatch as a game that focused all about aesthetics and how it looks. Sounds a lot like me. However, I was pleasantly surprised. The game carries the indie spirit that many desire, with different artistic styles and a new way of telling or interacting with a story. Firewatch isn't just about watching fires, but realising how beautiful life is. To understand what I mean, you should definitely play the game yourself. If you'd like a brief summary, then stick around. We play as Henry, a man who was just taken a job as the new fire lookout in the Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. We get a little backstory about him from some text. Henry was drunk in a bar and he met a woman, Julia. They quickly become acquainted and this friendship evolves to a relationship. They get a dog and think about starting a family. Julia gets a chance for a position to work at Yale. However, Julia develops early onset dementia and her memory starts failing. As Henry, you make the choice to put her in a care facility or to try and look after her. Ultimately, the decision you make doesn't matter. Not coping with this well, Henry decides to take the job of said fire lookout to get away from life. On the job, we are introduced to our fellow lookout, Delilah, who we talk to on our radios. The first few days of the job are us getting used to the wildlife. Fireworks are set off in the park and we go investigate. From many clues left behind, we find out it is a pair of teenage girls.
There are, panties?
There are what?
I don't want to say that word again.
Why, 'cause you're 12?
We steal their beers and head home,
Out me!
We know you're a peeping Tom!
taking a local cave as a shortcut. The cave surprisingly has an area that has been blocked off.
This cave is gated off.
It's to stop spelunkers from dying without getting the keys from the Forest Service office first.
Makes sense.
Afterwards, we find a mysterious figure in the woods, but we presume it is just a civilian.
Henry, there's something someone should have told you about this area.
What is it?
It's outside.
Come on.
Continuing to our tower, we find it has been ransacked by those teenage girls, also cutting down our communication line the next day. When trying to find the girls, Henry encounters the destroyed campsite for which the teenage girls think was Henry.
They call the police because they think I attacked them.
Oh my god, well, did you?
No.
But we didn't do it, therefore someone else did. The days go by and we get used to our job.
Babe, it's late.
Are you having a nice time?
It's good here. It's beautiful, you know.
Well, I'll let you get back to sleep then. Bye, baby. Biologists, a few people get their food there, and I don't want to have to call in for more. There should be loads of good stuff, though. Beans, prunes. You know, my sister eats 6 prunes a day. She'd be great at this job if she didn't need wheelbarrows full of marijuana to function.
All right, I got everything I need out of here.
Just yours, right?
Who do you think I am? Maybe we call it the Flapjack Fire. Can you sell that as a name?
You really like that, huh?
Yeah, I said I did. It's funny.
Fair enough. Flapjack Fire it is. And I know you're not really available, but maybe it'd be nice to get together at the end of the summer. You know?
What? What could we do?
Well, let me tell you. You're going fishing without a license?
It's one fish, and I'm sick of all the stuff I got to eat.
That reminds me, I keep hearing reports from Fish and Game about a problem bear they're trying to keep tabs on.
Problem bear? Fuck that. I am of the opinion that they are all problems. Someone left their clipboard out here. Someone has written down what we said to each other, have been saying. I found a walkie-talkie out here, too.
Okay.
On day 76, we find a transcript of our conversations with Delilah and the radio that was used. Whilst explaining this to Delilah, we are knocked out by an unknown person. When awaking, you remember a Wapiti station, but Delilah has no idea what that is.
What's Wapiti Station?
I don't know. Wapiti Meadow. Maybe it's Wapiti Meadow.
Henry investigates further, finding the fenced-off area. It is locked, but we plan to go to the local firefighter camp to get their help. Unfortunately, they are not there.
Yeah, these guys are gone. I found where they were sitting around before getting picked up.
Damn.
but an axe was left, for which we take.
I found an axe.
We use the axe to get into the fence and enter Wapiti Station. Sadly, we also get stung by a bee.
I got stung by a bee.
Okay. Is that it?
We find a camp. Inside there are papers of research being conducted on Henry and Delilah. Now with a conspiracy on our hands, we take a wave receiver for evidence. Delilah thinks of burning the place to the ground, but we say that's stupid.
These people do this to us. We should just burn the place down.
Look, maybe that's what they want us to do.
What do you mean?
Maybe they're trying to push us to the point where we do something crazy.
Nevertheless, the camp is mysteriously set on fire when we exit. The new radio wave detector picks up a signal which leads us to a very well hidden and alarmed set of keys to the cave you stumbled upon earlier in the game.
Forest, Cave 452. Is that the one in the canyon?
Yeah, it is. Oh. Well, you're back in your tower.
I'm not in my tower.
I am looking at a man standing in your lookout. And it's not you.
It is not me.
Oh my god, go.
Delilah spots someone in our tower. When we get there, a cassette is found, being edited to make it seem like Henry and Delilah burned down the camp in an audio tape.
No.
We are screwed.
No!
Dee, just don't freak out, okay? Don't freak out.
Oh my god, what the fuck is happening, Henry?
The next day, we enter the cave using the keys we found. Our entrance was locked by some unknown person, but we escape. After finding an exit, we stumble upon a fort. The fort was made by a kid called Brian Goodwin, who went missing 3 years ago.
Found an outcropping that someone was using as a little fort. I think it was Brian Goodwin.
Now with some new gear, we travel deep into the cave and find a skeleton, finding out it was the body of Brian.
Hey, I'm sorry, Delilah. The only thing in the cave is Brian. He's dead.
Gotta be fucking kidding me.
Delilah and Henry decide to leave the next day. The rope leads to a lookout and the cassette, which is a recording of Ned Goodwin, who is Brian Goodwin's father.
There's a tracking collar tied to it. Someone was leading me here. And there's another tape.
Yeah, hi, Henry. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches. You can't blame me for keeping an eye on you. Not after bumping into you back in May. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. All right, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
He explains what happened to Brian and that he went into hiding after the accident. He was also the one spying on us the whole entire game. Despite this, we leave the forest, parting ways with Delilah for the last time without even seeing her.
Tell you what, why don't you choose for me and I'll choose for you?
Well, you could always go take over the crossword at the New York Times. So, what about me?
I think you should go to Julia.
Thanks, Delilah. I appreciate it.
I mean it. Okay, good luck.
Thanks.
Bye, Hank.
Now, let's talk about the ending. There are many theories and discussions about the ending of the game and the dark secrets that may be present. The ending is quite anticlimactic because we slowly get pushed into a story filled with beauty and disbelief. As soon as we think we may uncover something like what lies beneath the surface of the story, we are left ambiguous. We don't get to know what happened to Brian Goodwin or Ned Goodwin, or get to know the true purpose of Wapiti Station. When we leave as Henry, that is when his life actually begins again. There are also a lot of conspiracies concerning Delilah and how she has some sort of dark secret that she hides from Henry, possibly knowing that Ned Goodwin was hiding away and allowing him to do so to cover up Brian Goodwin's accident. But it isn't that important to get into. Firewatch is a part of Henry's life that he uses to escape the struggles of his current one. Henry and Ned Goodwin share some similarity in the fact that they do not stay true to themselves. Henry's wife, Julia, has dementia, and Henry can't bear to see her like this, wanting to escape that reality. Taking a job that sends him into a forest filled with peaceful wilderness and natural beauty, being a fantasy, but ultimately leaves that place for the chance to go back to his real life. Ned Goodwin, however, lost his son in an accident, for which he blames himself for. So, to cope with this, he stays in the forest and hides, not wanting to enter the real world, knowing that his son is gone. The mundane ending is a real one. We don't get the happy ending or the bad ending. It is all subjective. We think we will uncover a conspiracy, we think there is a spark with Delilah, we think we will catch the unknown figure, but we don't. We just went back home, and that's good. To enjoy life, we need to face it head on, despite the ups and downs. That's the luxury of Firewatch, a chance to get away from a hard place and go back to it with a new outlook on it. This ending is real, this ending is human, and that is more for them we can ask for. The development was a key aspect of Firewatch. Being an indie game, they didn't have much to work with, but obviously what they made, it was great. So let's talk about it. Firewatch was the first game to be released from Campo Santo. The game developers behind Campo Santo are Jake Rodkin and Sean Vanderman, known for their creative work with The Walking Dead, Nels Anderson and graphic designer Ollie Moss. They cooperated with game designer Chris Remo to design this game. Chris Remo designed, wrote and scored the game. The original concept of the game came to fruition through Ollie Moss. From one art piece, another artist who works at Campo Santo, James Ng, crafted a 3D version of Ollie Moss's art. The development team visited Yosemite National Park for inspiration, visiting lookout towers and enjoying the scenery in general. Chris Remo wanted the game to have an interactive story without complex and challenging mechanics. To create that interactive essence, he had to focus on the basics.
By way of comparison, in an action-first game, if the player is to engage deeply with your combat or traversal mechanics, then those mechanics should be fluid, responsive, and dominant in your game. That makes the action believable whether or not it's realistic because the player is sucked into it.
Dialogue was a big part of the game due to the characters communicating over the radio. The dialogue was made to simulate some sort of reality, having options of dialogue but having different interactions and reactions with each option. Chris also likes the use of hard cuts in other forms of media such as films.
So I figured we could do that in our game too. The player knows Henry is only supposed to be out in the woods for one summer, so if we mark the passage of time with days, it creates a sense of tension.
Using hard cuts in this game is an idea to create a sense of time. Therefore, he incorporated the day system into his game, being hard cuts. Firewatch runs on Unity, but modifications had to be made to suit Jane Ng's vision. She hand modelled all the trees in the game and used a shader to give the game its stylized look. Some character interactions and animations were done by James Benson, a YouTube animator. He has a Firewatch reel that I recommend you watch. The walkie-talkie interactions were inspired by games such as Bioshock, and the dialogue system was similar to the one in The Walking Dead, having options to choose from. Due to the team's limitations, they tried to limit the amount of animation concerning characters and voice actors. They casted Cissy Jones as Delilah and later Rich Sommer for Henry. They never met in real life whilst recording, to create a form of method acting. They recorded in separate recording studios whilst on a conference call to simulate Henry and Delilah's relationship. The game was announced in March 2014, wanting a release for 2015. Campo Santo hosted a public playtest and Jane Ng hosted a panel called The Art of Firewatch. In that panel, Jane talks a lot about the processes she'd went through to get the game to look the way it does. She's especially utilised Unity tools such as Playmaker and Mars Mosset Skyshop, the shader add-on I stated earlier, which again, if you're interested in game art like I am, definitely watch Jane's panel. The game was released on PC and PS4, having limited physical copies of the game. In 2016, an Xbox version was made. In 2018, a Nintendo Switch version was released. The whole point of this video was to express the indie beauty that many should see. Campo Santo was limited in their budget and resources, but they still produced a sweet but short adventure that takes real life and presents it with a new layer of aesthetic colours and layers that we slowly uncover when we play, revealing a brutally honest ending that leaves a sour taste, but when we think about it, it is so sweet. I hope to play more games from Campo Santo, especially in the Valley of Gods, but there hasn't been any new news released about it, being TBA. Nevertheless, I'm waiting for a new adventure, a new story that takes me from reality and back to it with a new perspective. Wow, dude, that's fire.